Welcome back to another Team Tour Tuesday. This week we've got Nimrod Prime and an army of Sentinels and Sentinel-loving humans. Or X-Men hating humans, depending on how you put it. So this team is actually a fairly simple team, honestly. You basically have three characters with Nimrod Prime, Karima, and Bolivar Trask. And Bolivar Trask is a support piece, so you basically have Nimrod and Karima to keep track of. But we play a bunch of Friends Humanities and some Sentinels, and we can summon Sentinels. And so there is still a decent amount going on this team. But the haymaker for this team is easily this Nimrod Prime. So he's got a couple interesting powers. One, he's got the recruiter power for Sentinels. So if you're not familiar with how this works, as a power action, you choose one of your Sentinels who is dead, and then you choose another Sentinel on your sideline with less points than the dead one. You summon the one from your sideline next to the recruiter, in this case Nimrod. Your opponent immediately scores them, and then when they die, they don't score them, right? So you can kind of, if one of your Sentinels dies, you can summon in another Sentinel off your sideline that's less points, right? Now, realistically, all of our Friends of Humanities are Sentinels, but they're all 10 or 5 points, and these guys are 25. So you could run a bunch more on your sideline if you want to. I don't recommend it. Realistically, you're going to try and find something that can be recruited in when Karima dies. That's realistically your only option, or maybe something when Bolivar Trask dies. Those are your main options for this guy. If you're playing a 400-point team, then I would recommend throwing in Nimrod the Lesser from X of Swords. If you've got him as well, he's a little easier to pull. He's 100 points, and then you can put in some other higher-pointed recruiter options for 400-point events. But for 300-point events, like how this team is originally built, the recruiter power honestly doesn't come up a whole lot. Technically comes up with Karima dies, but it's not crazy good. Now, his crazy broken ability is his attack ability. So he's got Pulse Wave, which is already a good ability. Pulse Wave's already really good. When Nimrod uses it, you may instead only target characters within range along a single direct line of fire. So this means that unless you have positioned horribly, you're never pulse waving yourself. You're always pulse waving your opponents. If you do, hit characters are dealt 2 damage instead of 1. So you're dealing 2 damage to up to 3 characters instead of 1 to everybody, and all your Friends of Humanities and these guys are very weak, so you don't want to deal damage to your own guys. So even if you're only hitting one person, you want to do the line so that you're not hitting your Friends of Humanities. Also, if only one character was targeted and it was an opposing character, he deals his printed damage value instead. Now, I wonder what that could be. Oh look, it's 4 for the first 4 clicks of life. And he has a 12 attack with that ability, with a 19 invincible, and a running shot. So you've got a range of 6, so when you pulse wave, your range is halved, so that's why we only have a pulse wave for 3 squares, but we have a running shot of 10, so we can move 5 squares, then pulse wave 3. So if your opponent is within 8 squares of Nimrod, which after turn 1 they will be, it's a little hard to do like a straight up turn 1 attack, but if you're going first, since you have a bunch of guys, you're almost always running dice rolls for maps, then you're probably going first, then your opponent moves up, then they're in Nimrod range. And Nimrod will 1-shot any squishy, basically, in the game, and 2-shot any carry in the game. Pulse Wave ignores all defenses, so it doesn't matter if they have Invincible, it doesn't matter if they have a rollout, it ignores anything on the character. So it doesn't matter if they have Shape Change, if Super Senses, Invincible, toughness, combat reflexes, magic shield deflections, nothing. It doesn't matter at all. You're just hitting them, and they're just dying. And that's all they can do about it. Now, you can perplex up his own attack if you get lucky, and we'll look into that in a minute. He's also got Outwit, and he's Power Cosmic, and he's Giant. So you've got Giant Willpower, which succeeds on a 3, 4, 5, or 6 at the beginning of every one of your turns. Cosmic means that he can't be Outwit, and you've got an Outwit of your own. So you've got an Outwit that can't be turned off, because the only ways to turn off an Outwit are to outwit the Outwit, or kill the guy. And that ain't happening, especially with a 19 Invincible, that you can't outwit either. So you just gotta hit him, unfortunately. And he's got a lot of life. So that's not all. We saw on that last defense there was a stop click with Invincible and Regeneration. Now keep in mind, Regeneration on a stop click means that when you roll your d6, you have the result, then you subtract 1. So he's only healing up on 3, 4, 5, and 6. And even then he's only healing 1 or 2 clicks instead of 2 or 3 clicks like a normal Regeneration, because it's on a stop click. But he still has that Invincible on his stop click, which makes him very hard to kill. Also, when targeting, he ignores characters and breaks through walls. So if they're hiding behind a wall, you just laser blast the shit out of them. If they're hiding behind characters, even if you're not trying to pulse wave them, you laser blast the shit out of them. Yeah, always be pulse waving. ABP, always be pulse waving with this character. You don't really do anything else with this character. You're running shot into a 1 character, maybe 2 characters if you're feeling frisky, and you pulse wave the shit out of them. And then next turn, you're running shot into another character and pulse wave the shit out of them. And that's all you do. And that's all you need to do, because Nimrod is broken. Now, to pair with Nimrod, to make sure he's even harder to kill, we've got Bolivar Trask, a common from the Dark Phoenix Saga brick. So, Bolivar Trask has a couple very important abilities. One, he's got leadership. He's got traded leadership. So that's also very important since we have a lot of guys on this team. And it's only a 300-point team. We need some leadership to be able to move everybody. Also, when Bolivar Trask uses it and succeeds, instead of the normal effect, you may generate a Friends of Humanity. If he's adjacent to 3 or more Friends of Humanities, you generate a Sentinel. So these are the Friends of Humanities, these are the Sentinels. That's pretty easy. So, we'll get into this a little later when we get into the Friends of Humanities and the Sentinels specifically, but their click that they summon in on is kind of random. Now, sometimes this is good, sometimes this is bad. Honestly, most of the time it doesn't really matter. We're mostly here for that leadership and for summoning in more guys. Because Nimrod is useful by himself, but if your opponent doesn't have anything else that's worth attacking, then they'll just focus the Nimrod and he will fall over eventually, especially if he's only attacking once per turn. This leadership can double up to actually just remove the tokens if you need to, in case he fails his giant leadership. It's rare, but it does happen. It's definitely happened to me a lot. And also, he's got this special damage click. Support as free, but only to target characters with either the Sentinel or Robot keyword. So he can free heal Nimrod, which is the reason we're actually running him. Keep in mind that you do have to be not adjacent to any enemy characters with Nimrod and with Bolivar Trask in order for the support to go through. But Nimrod is giant and flies, and is honestly just going to be carrying Bolivar Trask everywhere. That's all you do with it, right? So Nimrod is always next to Bolivar Trask. At the beginning of your turn, if Nimrod is damaged and he's not next to anybody, you support hail him, right? Just for free, super easy. Then if you are next to somebody, Nimrod is giant, so he gets +1 to his breakaway rolls and can just fly away, right? So he doesn't have to stop next to characters when he's moving away. You can either just run and heal up that way if you're really low, or you can do the running shot pulse wave, and you've got 5 movement, stay within 3 to pulse wave just one character. You're not going to be pulse waving your Bolivar Trask unless you just drop him in a dumb position. Just don't do that. And then you pulse wave the shit out of one of their characters, then heal him up afterwards with the free support with Bolivar Trask, because you can get carried and then do the free action. Notably, this says support as free. He does not actually have support, so you cannot power action to support. You can only support as free, and as we all know, you can only take 1 free action of the same kind in a turn. So you cannot just super heal him every turn, right? He is killable, right? But this means that your opponent is honestly going to be likely just to attack your Trask, which, you know, is fine. It means another attack that's not going to our boy Nimrod. And also, he's got 4 clicks of life. So you do need 4 damage to kill him. 3 is the most common amount of damage, and if they put him to 3, he goes to a super senses click. He doesn't have high defenses, but you're going to probably get at least one of your rollouts. So he's going to take 2 to 3 attacks to kill if you're lucky. He's also got sidestep, so you can carry him off with the Nimrod, do the support up, and then sidestep out of range if you're worried about that. All in all, we do need another main attacker on the team, and that is where Karima comes in from House of X. I like this character a lot. So, she has Tailored Bioblast. When Karima hits, all characters can't use stop clicks this turn, and you may choose a standard attack power. She can use that power until she chooses again. So, this is very important. You can, when you hit somebody, they can't use stop clicks, right? So this lets you chew through black hearts, this lets you chew through weapon hexes with a soul sword on it, which is very funny. This lets you chew through a bunch of very annoying characters, and that character can't use the stop click at all this turn. So if you run Karima up, Karima shoots them. You ignore their stop click, and then he runs over and pulse waves them for a fuck ton. Or you can just shoot them at that point, because their stop click is off, right? Assuming they're on a not great defense, you can just shoot them from 6 squares away, and then you're still blasting, right? Also, Karima can choose a standard attack power, which if she hasn't moved yet, if she just took a shot, then maybe you can give her poison, or if you're planning up for her next turn, give her poison. If you need some more utility, you can give her telekinesis. If you want penetrating on your next couple attacks, you can give her penetrating psychic blast. There's a bunch of very useful attack powers that she can just pick up throughout the game based on your situation. Also, she ignores elevation, hindering, and characters for targeting, so she can shoot those stealth guys and then just like shoot the shit out of them for a lot of damage and kill them. She also has traded energy shield deflection, so she is meant to be a ranged attacker. As we will look on the back of her dial, we will see that. If I can hold the card for more than 2 seconds. She's also got decent attack and very good damage. She never drops below a 3 damage, so even though we don't have penetrating, you will still always be able to hit characters with invincible and invulnerable, and if you're lucky, impervious. She's got 10 running shot with a 7 range, 2 targets, which is also nice, and penetrating psychic blast. So even if you do run into those imperviouses, you're still dealing 1 damage even if they roll down. Also good at busting super senses, because she can dual target 2 guys with super senses. Even if one of them hits, you just deal the 3 damage, or in some cases later on the 4 damage, or the 4 damage back here to what you're looking for. Now, this character is very interesting on how her numbers line up. Her top click is not actually her best click. Her second click is, in my opinion. You will lose 1 defense, but you still got the invulnerable, and you're dealing 4 damage now with your precision strike. Your running shot drops 1, but when you're running shotting there, you're rounding up anyway, so it doesn't matter. Then this 3rd click here, or the 4th click I should say, after 3 damage has been taken, you're on this 4th click, which is your worst click on the whole dial. because the next click you pick up Ranged Combat Expert, which ups your attack back to an 11. You don't have Running Shot anymore, but you've got Phasing Teleport, so you can move out of the way. And you've got the plus back up to 4 on your damage. She also is flying, so she can carry other people out of the way, doesn't have to stop by characters when moving past them, all the good stuff. So I really like this character as a secondary range attacker, since technically Nimrod makes range attacks, but it's range 3. So realistically, he runs up, pulse waves the shit out of somebody, and then gets jumped on in melee, and then also shot at from range. So Karima being on the wings as a backup attacker at far away forces your opponent to engage you a little bit more. Also, her utility to turn off stop clicks, shoot through everything, including the giant Nimrod, or hindering or elevation, means that the utility that this character brings to the team, I like a lot, especially for only 75 points on the Sentinel team. She also duels as a higher point character to, if we really want to, do our recruiting from. Next up, we've got the Friends of Humanity. So we are running 6 of this character. Now, this is a common from the Dark Phoenix Saga pack, but it's a little harder to pull. Any team that runs a Friends of Humanity runs at least in multiples of 3, in my opinion. That's what you should be doing with this character. And honestly, the more the merrier. So this character is a little weird, so we're going to look at the back of the dial first. So we'll see a couple things that are important. 1, we have 6 clicks, all with 1 click of life. Our point value is either 10 or 5, which is how we're able to fit so many of these characters on this team with a 125 point Nimrod and a 75 point Karima, right? These guys are all minimal points, right? Then we've also got the Underworld team ability. So each one of the Friends of Humanities can carry any one other character on the team, except for Nimrod because he's big, or the Giant Sentinels because they're big, can't carry bigger characters, with the Underworld ability. If they're carrying characters that have less points than them, they can carry 2. Now, realistically, you're 10 points. The only characters that are going to be less than you are the other 5-point Friends of Humanities. So that's why we run them in bundles of 3. 1, because Bolivar Trask cares about having them in bundles of 3. And 2, because you'll have 1 10-point Friends of Humanity carrying 2 5-point Friends of Humanity. Now, what's the difference between the points? Why else would we just run them at 10? So if you paid 10 points for Friends of Humanity, they start the game choosing a starting click. If you paid 5 points for Friends of Humanity, or they were brought into the game by another effect, like his leadership if he's not next to 3 others, then you instead roll a d6 to determine their starting click. So it just kind of clicks down. Basically, the way to remember this is you take whatever you roll, double it, and -1. That's what click they go to. It's just the easiest way to do it, in my opinion. Then, if they're brought into the game by another effect, their point value is 5. So if your opponent scores them, they're only worth 5 points, which is useful because you're not going to be giving away as many points. Now, in my opinion, looking at all of these stats, they are broken up in interesting ways. So we've got a couple sidestep ones. We've got a sidestep with Close Combat Expert and a sidestep with Range Combat Expert. These characters are squishy. They do not want to be in melee. So for the 2 10-point ones, I always start them on click 1 with the sidestep because there are carriers, so they can move 7, and then sidestep 2 for another 9 movement, and a Range Combat Expert so that we can actually attempt to take some shots. 10 for 2, not awful, right? Then the random ones, they're going to be random, right? The ones that you're looking for the most are this Plasticity and Poison, because this is the tie-up piece, right? You run your guy over, you laser beam the shit out of them, and then you drop 2 Plasticity Poison pieces next to them. On their next turn, you poison them twice, laser beam the shit out of them, that kills them, right? Plasticity to keep them locked down, right? The Blades Claw's Fang click is not awful. The Charge Quake click is not awful, but they're not amazing. In my opinion, these are the best ones. The Empower is not amazing on this team, though when you combo it with some of these big Sentinels, it can come up. And the Flurry with the 9 attack is not going to be really doing much. We don't have any rally dies, except if you're playing the 400-point version. The Nimrod, the Lesser, rallies on friendly ones. So in that case, the rally die will come up on the flurrying attacks from these 9-point guys, because you're probably missing with these attacks anyways, but you're making 2 attacks. You can try and get some of those rally die on the Nimrod the Lesser. So that's kind of useful, but on the 300-point team, realistically, you're looking at this Plasticity Poison click, maybe the Blades click if you're lucky, maybe the Charge Quake click if you're stretching, right? These 2 are kind of bad, right? So that's basically all these guys do. They just run around and piss your opponent off. You have a million of them. They're not worth attacking because they're all 1 click. Like, you can put 4 damage on them, they're going to die anyways, it doesn't matter. You do want to keep aware of any opponent's poisons to kind of not let them just sit next to you, right? That's where you can carry some of your guys out with either Karima or the Nimrod or any of the carrying one, which is also why I like to give them a sidestep on the carrying one, so you can try to do a sidestep breakaway before you do your movement breakaway. Very nice for avoiding poisons. And Energy Explosion. That's the big one. Energy Explosion rocks this team a little bit. It rocks the Friends of Humanity. Now, the entire team is not the Friends of Humanity, but they're definitely very useful. They're definitely a little extra utility that your opponent has to watch out for. They can block line of sights to your non-giant characters like Bolivar Trask and Karima. So having Nimrod in front of Bolivar Trask and then having him surrounded by a bunch of Friends of Humanities on a map with no elevation keeps him pretty safe, right? Realistically, only your opponent's giant characters can do it, and depending on the positioning, he might even block them because of how giant works, right? So your Bolivar Trask can be safe with a bunch of Friends of Humanities around him, but then your opponent is incentivized to energy explosion the shit out of you and bonk all your guys. Now, 2 damage to Bolivar Trask puts him on his first Super Senses click. Not awful, he still has his support. And 2 damage to him does nothing, 2 damage to her does nothing, unless they have penetrating, in which case it still does nothing to him, only does 2 damage to her, that's fine. He can also still support her. It's any robot or Sentinel. She's both, so that's nice. Just keep an eye out for any opponent's energy explosions, especially on elevated maps where they can see over everybody and draw a line into the middle, not just the front bomb. Next up, we're looking at the Sentinel, the last piece of this puzzle. So your team does start with 1 Nimrod Prime, 1 Karima, 1 Bolivar Trask, the 6 Friends of Humanities, and 1 Sentinel on your starting force. Since it is a 25-point Sentinel, it is also randomized. When they are summoned in from Bolivar Trask, they are randomly clicked on. Also, make sure that you are aware of your positioning with Bolivar Trask. You generally want him carried by Nimrod. You want 3 of the Friends of Humanities standing next to him, but then you need to have a place to summon your Sentinel. If you don't have a place to summon the Sentinel adjacent to Trask in the 2x2, even if you have the leadership, you don't summon. So that is something to keep aware of for your positioning. Don't walk yourself into a wall, because then you can't get all the Friends of Humanities plus Nimrod plus the summon next to you, right? Now, if you are like this, you can summon here, which is nice, because that's still adjacent to him, and it's only taking up 1 square next to him, but same thing in the back like that. But just be aware of that when you are positioning your team and you're trying to get the big Sentinel summon, right? Now, traded, these Sentinels have, at the beginning of your turn, a Sentinel may move 1 square. If an opposing character with the X-Men or Brotherhood mutants keyword is on the map, it may move an additional square. So, realistically, it's just a free move, 1 free move at the beginning of your turn. If you're playing against the X-Men or Brotherhood, go for it. You get 2 move. Beautiful. Love to see it. That's for all of them, no matter what click they're on. Then, we're going to look at the back of their dial here. Inside the booklet is just all the little standard powers that are in here. So, one thing to notice is that they all have 3 damage the entire time. Their numbers are all the same, 8, 10, 18, 3, and they all have invulnerable on their defense click with an 18, right? So, they're a bit of a pain in the ass to kill. You have to deal 2 damage to them to kill them. With the invulnerable, that's 4 damage unless you're penetrating. If you're penetrating, you're just going to kill one of these guys, right? But not everybody's always penetrating, right? And then you're just going to summon another one on your next one with Bolivar, right? So keep in mind your opponent does score 25 points every time they kill one of these, and that does tend to add up if the game goes long, but hopefully Nimrod is just laser blasting the shit out of everybody, and you don't have to worry about that. So looking at the different options we have a charge super strength version. Not amazing, though charge is not awful, especially since they're colossal, so they can walk over everybody, they automatically break away from normal characters, and they fly, so they can ignore terrain, ignore characters, that kind of stuff. Good stuff there. Stealth with a special attack power, which we'll look at in a minute. Running shot with penetrating psychic blast, which is much better than super strength, because this means penetrating damage with the 6 range and the 4 movement on the running shot. I do like this version of them a lot. This is the Perplex version that I was talking about earlier. If you get this Perplex version with the special movement ability here, which is a lockdown ability, this is probably my favorite one. You can Perplex up his attack to a 13 on his top dial or a 12 to make sure his pulse waving is one-shotting anybody. And this is like an extended plasticity breakaway thing, basically, to keep your team safe from melee characters. So then you'll have to deal with range characters, and Karima and Nimrod can wipe those up pretty quick. Next up, we've got Force Blast with Ranged Combat Expert. So the Force Blast gives passive knockback, pretty nice. If you really need to, you can take the power action. Since we are giant, we're probably going to take it off and just kick somebody away. This makes us an 11 attack with a 4 damage. Even without the penetrating, that's still doing good damage. Again, Impervious is going to screw us a little bit, and Energy Shield Deflection is going to make this a little hard to hit, but beyond that, this is our second best attacking piece. And then we've got the Sidestep with Close Combat Expert. So this is actually my preferred melee piece instead of the charge piece, especially since you're going to be summoning most of your Sentinels throughout the game with Bolivar Trask ability, so you're going to be halfway up the board. Then you're going to get your free move at the beginning of the turn. If they have an X-Men, you're going to get another free move. Then you're going to get your Sidestep, and then since he's Colossal, he has Giant Reach 3, so you can punch 3 squares away. So whenever you summon with Bolivar Trask, they can move 1. We'll just say 1 square on the free move, 2, 3. Then 4, 5, 6 squares away from where Bolivar Trask is summoning them in to make the melee attack. With the Close Combat Expert, plus them up to a 4 with the 11 attack. So I prefer that to be my melee attacker, this to be my range attacker. This is the best one in my opinion, and this is a close second, right? These two are not amazing, though Stealth with the special attack ability that we'll look at is not awful. So looking at the special move ability here on the card first, the character will have plasticity, but affects all opposing characters within 6 squares and line of fire. So this is very useful. So you have to be able to see them, but since you're giant, you can see over everything, right? Within 3 squares means that when they move into you, they don't have to stop. But when they want to move away, they do have to stop. And it's with plasticity. And it's within range 3. So even if your character is all the way over here, and you've got the Sentinel here, your opponent's character is all the way over here, 1, 2, 3 squares away, they still have to break away, and it's with plasticity. So they have to get the 6 to break away. This makes a lot of lockdown, because now your Nimrod and your Karima can just do whatever they want, right? Especially if you run this piece up near a melee piece, but keep them just outside that range, that melee piece is going to struggle to get up to you, right? That means that this character basically can't be hurt by this melee piece. They just can't get anywhere. They can't move. And if you do get shot by a ranged character, you're just going to summon another one anyways. Hopefully you get the lockdown piece again. Very nice. At least to stall the melee piece a turn while Karima and Nimrod take care of them. Then the special attack ability is Incapacitate. When the Sentinel uses it as a close, it may instead target all characters within 3 squares in line of fire, regardless of adjacency. So this is why I don't mind that click, although it's not great because you do have to hide in stealth, but with 2x2s, your entire body has to be in the stealth, because if they can draw a line of fire to one of your unhindering squares, then they can just target that one, even if you're in stealth. It's a little annoying. So keep in mind that the stealth says stealth, but it's oftentimes not actually stealth. And then you've got the melee Incapacitate. You can do the range Incapacitate, but the melee Incapacitate incapacitates everybody within 3 squares, which is obviously much better as a lockdown piece, but we don't have any attempt at a movement attack, we don't have a sidestep, we don't have a charge, we don't have a hypersonic, anything like that. So this is like a bad version of our lockdown piece, and this one right here is like a bad version of our ranged attack piece, right? And then this one is like a bad version of our preferred melee click, right? So we've basically got 3 modes: ranged, melee, and lockdown. We've got a good version of each one and a kind of shitty version of each one. But the randomness, the ability to just kind of force your opponent to adapt to your strategy mid-game based on something that you can't even control, throws your opponents off a lot, I have found, while actually playing this team. So, to recap for the Nimrod Prime team, Nimrod runs around laser blasting the shit out of everybody, carrying Bolivar Trask. At least one of your Friends of Humanities will carry the other 2 to stay next to Bolivar Trask, while the other squad will kind of go be annoying based on what you randomly rolled with them. Karima can run off onto her side, taking wing shots on the edge, because she has 7 range, 2 targets with her good running shot stats, and the penetrating and the ignore stop clicks, and the pickup of random attack power. That's really good. Bolivar Trask can run around to heal up either Nimrod or Karima, because he can support as free to any robot or sentinel, including these sentinels. If they somehow take 1 damage but don't die and you really need them alive, Bolivar Trask can do that as well. Every turn, Bolivar Trask will be rolling a leadership roll, and since he is next to his 3 Friends of Humanities, because we're good players and we're always making sure we're doing that, then he will sometimes be summoning these Sentinels. And these Sentinels are great range attack pieces, decent melee pieces, and amazing lockdown pieces, assuming you're lucky. If you are playing the 400-point team, again, I recommend Nimrod the Lesser. I'm not going to go over him specifically for this team since this is a 300-point team, but he is an amazing 100 points of Sentinel robot goodness to just slap onto the team, call it close enough, be 400 points of very good piece, very synergistic with the team. Bolivar Trask can still heal him, and his rally die come up with the flurry piece of the Friends of Humanities to give it a little more extra utility there. And with that, that was our Sentinel team breakdown. There's many cool build around Sentinel pieces, almost all of them Nimrods, honestly. And this was the newest one and the coolest one that we have currently. So if you have any other Nimrod Sentinel suggestions, leave them in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video, and we'll see you guys next week.